This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly, a fun night in the Champions League. Let's start with one of the greatest headers since Ruud Gullit 88 or even B. Glendenning versus Beaver 86. Dan Burn with predator boots for a forehead, curling it in from just inside the box to help Newcastle to victory. Manchester City are starting to look ominous. Phil Foden with two perfect Phil Foden finishes and Jérémy Doku's brilliance setting up Erling Haaland. Chelsea are held in Azerbaijan. Qarabag aren't quite the carrier bags everyone thinks they are, but still a disappointing result for a side who are impossible to work out. Game of the night in Bruges, 3-3 with Barcelona. Victor Osimhen gets a hat-trick with the help of the handball, or why is no one listening to me? We'll look ahead to the Premier League this weekend. Man City Liverpool stands out, while Spurs Man United has crisis klaxon for someone written all over it, just like last season. And champions-elect Arsenal go to the Stadium of Light. There's FIFA's I Can't Believe It's Not the Nobel Peace Prize. Peace Prize, your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max.
From the Racing Post, Mark Langdon, hello.
Hi, Max.
And good morning, Lars Sivertsen.
Hi, Max.
Bjorn says, Dan Burn, best headed goal this year, this decade. Stu, please can we have a minimum 60-second expert analysis from Barry on Dan Burn's header? How does that sit in the pantheon of exquisite headed goals? Van Persie, Ronaldo, Asprilla, Barry. I mean, what? It was just such a... the game wasn't fascinating. It was hard to know which was the most interesting game to start with, Barry, but... just the moment it left his head, you're like, how is that going to... how do you curl the ball with your head?
Yeah, it was a really wonderful header, really well-worked free kick. Kieran Trippier swung it towards the far post, well, into space. It wasn't particularly near the far post. Voltemade and somebody else blocked the defenders while Dan Burn ran around the side. And I think he slightly took the gloss off what was a truly excellent finish. By just saying afterwards he decided to head it as hard as he could, because he did curl it in. There was I don't know, I can never remember if it's fade or draw that golfers use, but
that would have been a draw there, Barry.
A draw, okay. Wonderful finish. Then you could see him when he was taken off, showing the other subs how he'd done it, miming his header. It was tremendous altogether. There's a lot not to like about Newcastle, but I think Dan Burn is one of the things it really is okay to love about Newcastle. He seems like a top bloke. He loves playing for them. It's his hometown club, and I think he couldn't believe his luck when they came in for him when he was at Brighton. I think there was a time, was it last season, when he was habitually being left trailing in the wake of far more quick attackers, that we were writing him off and saying he was far too slow to play in this Newcastle team, or maybe even to play Premier League football, but he's proved his detractors wrong. And yeah, that was a sensational goal. Really, really enjoyed it.
Mark, we were having this conversation yesterday, I think, about Mickey van der Ven, about goals that you just don't often see. You just go, how does that work? And I've just watched that header so many times, and I mean, I think it's the same question to Barry. I just want to talk about it more. I'm trying to think of other headers that are like that. And maybe the camera angle is just perfect.
It was his. He's done it before.
Oh, in the cup final.
Qarabag Cup final.
But no, not quite as good, I think, Mark. I'm not sure. This feels better than that one.
This was a better header. I think Van Persie's still, I would say, my favourite one, just because it was so unusual. But I think just to build on that, the Dan Burn loving, I mean, this is somebody that has had to go right the way down the leagues to come back up again. And you can see what it actually does mean to him to play for Newcastle, to score a goal in a cup final as well for them. I always feel like he's vulnerable when he plays left back. Just always feel, you go on the wing and get at him and you'll beat him. And some have. I think he had a tricky game against Arsenal earlier on in the season, but he actually does the job fairly well, and he's got himself into the England squad, and with set pieces becoming increasingly important in both boxes, to have somebody that strong in the air, so tall, so powerful, I think it helps you A, to defend them, but B, also to score goals as well. So yeah, there's not a huge amount to love, I think, about sort of the Champions League as a whole, really, because it is just money grabbing, but actually to see Dan Burn reveling in the atmosphere of a big Champions League night. I think that is something to keep us warm through these winter months.
I'm gonna correct myself, because I just realized Dan Burn is a lefty, isn't it? So bending it to the left, so that would be a fade.
I was thinking that.
But then again, when you're doing it with your head, like it becomes. But this is me being biased towards because I'm righty. Oh, in the pantheon of great headers, I feel like bringing the Scandi bias, I have to mention Henrik Larsson against Bulgaria in Euro 2004. But fine, let's just put that in there.
Yeah,
it just occurred to me that I don't buy this that he said I just headed as hard as he can. I just think he wants to like dial the expectations down a bit. I think people saw him do that and then they think, "Whoa, what can he do next?" You want to? Would you also start saying people who can do that with their feet? We will always say, "Oh, he's got a cultured left foot and he's got a." Can we just say now? Does Dan Burn have a cultured head? Is that what you would? And I every single Dan Burn header from now on, I'm going to be watching closely. Like, is he communicating something with this? I just want to yes and what Mark said about how great it is to have an extra tall guy on the pitch, because the idea that he seemed to be too slow to do this. Not only is he playing regularly, but he's playing regularly like left back, where typically you need speedy boys, and having a fullback who's that big and strong means you still have two big center halves, and it just gives you like extra aerial power here. No, it's great.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it's a bit like we were talking about, the art of striking a football with Matty Cash and with Chanaloglu's corner to Zielinski and his finish. But that the art of heading it is actually, it's not really discussed very much. Like how actually, there is a skill to doing this. Whether you're cushioning a header or you're trying to put one with power or put it back from where the keepers come from or whatever. And so quite nice to have that opportunity to talk about one art of the game. I mean, I don't know if anyone had any thoughts beyond.
No, just does this mean we're going to have like heading clinics with Dan Burn? Is that going to be the new sort of social media content we could have?
Or a heading coach, like next to the set piece coach, just a heading comes on for flick on. So
we'll teach them how to, like, there's probably something you do with your neck muscles and the timing to get the right swaz on it.
Yeah, possibly. Mark, did you have any thoughts beyond this moment on this game?
Yeah, I think it was important for Newcastle to win. They've not got an easy run in. So, if you want to finish in the top 8, you definitely needed to win this game. Just wanted to speak about Athletic, and actually I full respect for Dan Burn, who didn't call them Athletic Bilbao and called them Athletic Club in his post-match interview. So he sort of, I felt that they were, like, they've got a lot of injuries at the moment to key players, and it's really harming their chances. And it's a shame because they fought so hard to get into the Champions League. But particularly with Williams being out at the moment, like, the team just lacks a bit of stardust. But it was an important win for Newcastle because, like, if you look at the league table at the moment, if you finish outside the top 8, it looks like it's going to be very competitive in that playoff round again. So there will be a desperate fight for those last couple of spots, I would say.
I'd say the reason Dan Burn knew the proper name to address Athletic Club by is because Newcastle and they have this sort of special relationship, a unique bond, I keep hearing it called, that goes back to, I think, 1994 when they played each other in the UEFA Cup. And apparently it's down to the fact that some Athletic Club fan got left behind in Newcastle, and a kindly family of Geordies took him in and gave him a bed for the night and fed him and watered him. And when Athletic fans heard about this at the away leg, Athletic went through over the 2 legs, but the Athletic fans invaded the pitch and instead of being violent, they applauded the travelling Newcastle fans. And this has forged this unique bond between the two clubs. I think Rob Lee's testimonial, it was Athletic Club who were invited to play in it. And it goes to show how rancorous an environment football can be. That's such a basic act of human kindness can result in such a strong relationship between two clubs.
That's a very lovely and eloquent explanation, Barry, and something I didn't know. I just think he knows his Athletic Club because he has a cultured head.
Well, yeah, that's true. Probably. Of course. Let's go to Qarabag 2, Chelsea 2. Chelsea have not won away in the Champions League since 2022. And they continue to be an odd team. I guess, Lars, if you could give us some context on what getting a point away at Qarabag is, because I think instantly you think this is an embarrassment. But they actually haven't been bad, have they? They've beaten Benfica and Copenhagen so far, Qarabag.
Yeah, I'm still working them out a little bit because they had this brilliant comeback in Lisbon against Benfica, where they were down and they turned the game around, and that essentially got Bruno Lage fired from the job there. And then they followed that up by beating FC Copenhagen at home in a game that was pretty even, really. But that's 2 wins in the Champions League league phase for a team from Azerbaijan, which is great. But it also doesn't give us a lot of definitive proof of how good they really are. It means they're not like atrocious. Clearly, they can hold their own. But I'm still kind of working out how good they actually are. But certainly, this was impressive in the sense that Chelsea had more possession, had more shots. But they were competitive and they played with a good intensity. I mean, the coach Gurban Gurbanov has been there since 2008, which is not something that you typically see in modern football. And they are a team that has, I mean, they're owned by one of the bigger sort of holding companies in Azerbaijan, so there's a little bit of power behind them. But when we're talking about sort of teams from outside the European football mainstream, they're definitely minnows. They're not like high-powered minnows like Shakhtar were back in the day, for instance. And they've been very, very impressive in what they've done in the group stage so far.
Mark, Chelsea made 7 changes to the team that beat Spurs at the weekend. I presume you were at that game. They've made 85 changes to their starting 11s this season in all competitions, the most of any Premier League sides. I mean, it feels like a difficult number to comprehend if that's a ludicrous number of changes or how many changes you would make. And there's obviously a balance between you've got to play all these games, you've got a big squad, but also it's quite hard to find rhythm, I guess, which makes Chelsea, routinely difficult to kind of understand.
They are. It's mainly a young team as well, so I think that will bring about inconsistencies. The team selection, I think it's right to rotate as much as Maresca is doing this. You got to remember they won the Club World Cup, so their pre-season was not usual, and I think we're still trying to work out exactly what that means. PSG are picking up a lot of injuries at the moment themselves, and they reached the final might just be pure coincidence. So I think that Maresca does have to manage that, and he's got a big squad, so if he doesn't rotate, then players will get increasingly unhappy. So I think that he's doing the right thing in rotating. I thought this was a pretty poor performance from Chelsea, though, particularly first half, and maybe slightly fortunate they were only 1 goal behind, but they have got real star quality, and Estevao it feels just like a matter of time before he actually becomes like a real superstar, and he's well on the way to doing it. He's making important contributions off the bench at the moment. Won't be long before he is really lighting up the Champions League and will become one of those players I think that is just undroppable for Chelsea.
Philippe saying French TV analysis of Qarabag Chelsea at half time consists of a worst of compilation of Jurel Hatto in the first 45 minutes. Seems harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, he had a shocker. He was responsible for the first goal. He almost gave away a penalty before that was scored, and then he did give away a penalty for the second. It was a night to forget for the young man.
Yeah, but this, I suppose, this is really, he's come into Chelsea. They maybe could have done with another year or two at Ajax, but Chelsea want to bring in these players, and I think that just comes back to what I was saying earlier. Really young players will make mistakes. Older players make mistakes as well, but you just feel like that is part of the risk and reward of what Chelsea are trying to do.
I mean, I'm not making excuses for Chelsea here. They clearly have the resources and the manpower and all this to go and beat a team from Azerbaijan. But for people who are not aware, it is a trek. It's a 5-hour flight with an added 4-hour time difference because they don't do daylight savings times. It would normally be 3 hours, but this time of year it's 4 hours. So when you're flying out there from the UK, they will have flown out in the middle of the day and arrived basically late at night. And it's it does mess around with your having spent a little bit of time in the sort of Caucasus region last couple of years. It does mess around with your body clock a little bit, and it's not easy to just go there, reset, do something, and go straight back again. It's a genuinely it's a bit of a throwback as an away trip, really, to a time where zipping around Europe wasn't quite as easy as it is now. And I think they make a really interesting addition to the Champions League for that reason. And of course, it's going to be even worse for the guys who have to go to Kazakhstan, I guess.
I think Chelsea tried to stay on sort of UK times, which would have brought about its own complications as well.
Yeah, make it sound like they had to get the Orient Express all the way to the Caucasus there, Enzo Maresca, just throwing coal into the front of a steam train. Anyway, to the Etihad, Man City 4, Dortmund 1. Barry, Man City were extremely good in this game. Phil Foden's goals were beautiful. The setup from Doku for Haaland was great. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you've said. I think Dortmund made it quite easy for them. Left lots of nice, inviting spaces between their back five and the next line of defence for Phil Foden to find pockets in, and it's through that he scored. Unlike against Bournemouth, City's wingers were playing out wide, sort of hugging the touchline, making the pitch big. That made life difficult for Dortmund. And then, of course, Erling Haaland was doing Erling Haaland things. I think that's 54 goals he scored now in 52 Champions League games for Salzburg, Dortmund and City. He scored his goal here, and then there was one memorable occasion where he got a touch of the Mickey van de Ven's and decided to just charge upfield. I think by the time he got near the edge of the box, there was 4 or 5 Dortmund players around him trying to get the ball from him. So he just squared it to, I think it was Nico O'Reilly, who was in acres of space because all these defenders had been drawn to Haaland, and he should have scored, but Kobel saved his shot. He got it too close to the keeper. But it was a very straightforward win for City, although Dortmund did have chances. Donnarumma had to make a couple of saves, but it was a pretty easy night at the office.
Mark, where's Phil Foden on? What's his on the plane status right now, would you say?
Oh, yeah, I'd say he's probably still more off the plane than on the plane, given the balance that I think that Tuchel wants in the side. I was one of those that was championing the Phil Foden on the left. I'll sort of hold my hands up and say, that was, I feel like I wasn't the only one, but a lot of people jumped off that bus pretty quickly during the Euros. I still feel like the problem was more that they had a right back playing at left back rather than Phil Foden himself, but clearly had a very bad season last year, almost unexplainably bad, and the fitness didn't seem to be there, and it's hard to know if maybe there was a few off-field stuff, because it just wasn't the Phil Foden that we'd seen going into the Euros. And if somebody said to me, describe a classic Phil Foden goal, I think it would have been the 2 that he got against Dortmund, where he picks the ball up really quick feet, and it's powerful, but also placed really nicely as well. He's got that quick feet, and he seems to be enjoying football again, and he definitely wasn't doing that last season. I think he does want to play centrally, and he made that fairly clear. And he does do his best work in that position. But in terms of the England question, there's a lot of players that do play in that exact same role, and the emergence of, say, Anderson sort of further back as well has just added the complications there. I'd say Bellingham would be ahead of Foden still if you were looking to play a natural number 10,
and Rodgers, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah, and Rodgers is somebody that's got the trust, and Cole Palmer's to come back. So there are a lot of good players there. I just hope that Foden can just continue to enjoy his football for the rest of the season. And if he does that and plays to that level, it makes it difficult to leave out. But there's a lot of good players in that position.
I love the way Jérémy Doku gets away from. I can't remember who it was for Haaland's goal. It's such an extraordinary change of pace, isn't it?
So Doku is incredible. He has his ability one-on-one. I'm not sure there's anyone better in the world, to be honest, at just going past the man, at just skinning someone one-on-one down the flank there. But he's never really, even going back to at Rennes, the season before he joined Man City, he was a little in and out of the team. I got the numbers in front of me now. He started 13 and came off the bench 16. And it's been the same with CZ. The 2 seasons he's been there, started 18 the first season, came off the bench 11, then started 16, came off the bench 13. The point I'm making is that he's someone who's yet to fully become as consistent as you want him to be. I do feel like he's kind of taking some steps this season. Again, he's being used off the bench a little bit more, but I feel like his actual output in terms of real end products has gotten a little better. 3 assists so far this year. And it is an incredible weapon City has. Like, he is such an unbelievable dribbler. Maybe he is someone who will also, in the way that Haaland has benefited this season from City sitting a little deeper, giving him more space to run into. That sort of tactical tweak is something that probably benefits Doku a little bit as well.
Mark, just a question on Joe Bellingham at Dortmund and how's he faring? Only 2 appearances so far.
Yeah, not great. Well documented that maybe the Bellingham family are not happy with the minutes that he's been receiving in Dortmund, and that I think caused more problems than sort of helped him, with sort of reports of his dad getting involved in sort of trying to tell the club that he should be playing more often. I think it was a big step for him. He's just a player that was playing in the Championship because his name's Bellingham. Like, he just expected to be as good as Jude Bellingham straight away, and that is just really unfair. Just because they've got the same surname doesn't mean they're the same player, doesn't mean they've got the same potential, doesn't mean he will go on to play for Real Madrid. So I think there needs to be some patience, but he wouldn't be somebody that Dortmund, as those stats show, that they're relying on really at the moment.
All right, that'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll begin in Bruges. And welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So brilliant game in Bruges. Club Brugge 3, Barcelona 3. Mark, you watched this one. So open.
Yeah, I mean, I had to take one for the team, didn't I, really? Barry and Lars had taken the really good game. So I said, I'll watch Barcelona. And yeah, I mean, it was the most fun. I don't know if you've heard, but Barcelona like to play with a high line.
Yeah. And it looks so ridiculous, doesn't it, Mark? It does. Whenever they concede a goal, it looks so ridiculous. Clearly, there are advantages to having a high line. We know that. But when they concede it, was it the second goal? I think Forbes' first goal. And you're like, how is there just one defender and also like a really tiny person? Not that that's necessarily relevant. How is that possible, Mark?
Because when Bruges get the ball, all of the Barcelona players just run forward and sort of, I think it might have been the first goal where there's about sort of 7 or 8 Barcelona players in just the image all near the halfway line, because the defenders are rushing up and the midfield are not quite putting pressure on the ball, and it looks terrible when it goes wrong. You're absolutely right, Max. Of course there are benefits to that, and had 23 shots in the game, and maybe they wouldn't have been able to have done that without putting pressure higher up the pitch. But defending like that doesn't feel like you'll win the Champions League, and it's caught them out in La Liga as well at times this season. Already lost the Clasico. I thought that Club Brugge were fantastic in this game because they didn't just sit back and accept their fate. They knew they would have to defend, but they poured forward when the opportunities arose. I thought Forbes, he got the 2 goals, set up another one. That pace just off the right flank caused Barcelona a lot of problems. And Vanaken in midfield, sort of attacking midfield position, like someone who's been at sort of Bruges just hanging around, and they bring in a lot of younger players. He's a fantastic footballer and really clever and intelligent, and helped to dictate when they went forward what they were trying to do. So it was definitely the game of the night. Absolutely loved it. Barcelona could have won. They could have lost. At one stage, I did lose the score in my head because there was a penalty that was given and then disallowed. There was a goal that was given and then disallowed. It becomes quite chaotic in those moments, but a fantastic game.
Mark, you main screened this. I had like revolving highlights from all the games on the second screen, and it was farcical because every time they went to this game felt like it was either a good Barcelona attack, and let's be fair, there were a lot of those as well. But every time it felt like they went to this and Bruges was doing something, it was the same move. It was like a long ball into space, often out wide to Forbes, and just a pile of space everywhere, and no Barcelona players anywhere near it. And like deep into the second half, this was still happening. And was there any, you were watching it properly, was there any sense that Hansi Flick was trying to adjust, was trying to adapt, trying to do something? Or was he just going there going, jawohl, I guess this is what we are doing in this football game? Like this, I just think this is really extremely weird behavior by the coach.
It was weird, and no, they didn't try to change, even though Bruges clearly worked out like a way to just beat the offside trap, and it did involve Forbes just being quicker, and so as long as he timed his run, they were always able to get in, and it was an easy outball. They didn't have to play amazing football to just create chances. But you are also right, Lars, that some of Barcelona's attacking play, Lamine Yamal in the second half particularly, was devastating, and his goal, the combination play with Olmo was that was unbelievable as well.
Yeah, that was joyous, Barry, wasn't it?
Yeah, he picked up the ball, skipped past 2 defenders to the edge of the area, played a light and fast 1-2. I thought it was Lopez or Olmo, one or the other, received a return pass, and then just with the outside of his left boot, sort of shunted it into the bottom corner. It was a beautiful goal. I'm curious to know, Mark, or anyone, what did you make of the Club Brugge winner, in inverted commas, that was disallowed by our own Anthony Taylor? I thought it was a bit harsh.
Yeah, I thought it was harsh, but I think it might be a foul.
I agree with Max. I think Chesney knows that he has messed up, and then is able to kind of make the foul almost. Normally it's the other way around. Normally the attacker makes contact with the goalkeeper to win a penalty. It was sort of reverse of that, really, where Chesney's Cruyff turn goes wrong, and then I think he panics, realizes that he's in big trouble, and manages to collide with the attacking player. I thought that summed up Barcelona, really, though sloppy. They were my tip to win Champions League at the start, but I'm going off that more with every match, really.
Benfica 0, Leverkusen 1. Benfica have 0 points in their campaign, which isn't very many points, Lars.
Arguably the lowest number of points they could have had at this point.
They should have won this game 5-0, I think.
Yeah, the Greek forward Pavlidis, who's been otherwise pretty sharp this season, has had some good games. He's got just looked that up now, and he's got 8 games and 9 domestically, and not a bad striker, but he had a couple of really bad misses in this one, which particularly insulted me because it would have been a great assist by the Norwegian Fredrik Ausnes, who was playing right back for the occasion. Played a very clever ball into him that he missed, which is upsetting for me. And things Benfica, Jose Mourinho coming back has not completely revolutionized them. They've had a couple of good wins in the league recently, to be fair to Jose, but in the Champions League, I mean, they have played Chelsea, Newcastle and Leverkusen, which I think is not an easy run of 3 games to have in the Champions League, but yeah, still no points.
A hat-trick, Barry, for Victor Osimhen, with a lot of help from the handball law. I mean, you can imagine what I was going through when I got to this game.
Yeah, I mean, my notes for this game are Osimhen diving header from Leroy Sané cross, good goal, got in front of his man and got the crucial flick. And then 0-2, Osimhen penalty for a stupid handball. And 0-3, another stupid handball, another Osimhen penalty. The first one, the ball is crossed into the penalty area, and the ball goes off the defender's leg and hits his hand. Now, I thought that couldn't be a handball if it comes off another part of your body and hits your hand. But I think there was 2 penalties given like that in various games last night. So I must be wrong. They were both daft. But again, we're talking about it, and there's a much lower, or is it higher? Lower, higher. A different threshold for this in the Champions League than there is in the Premier League. And the one in the Premier League is already ridiculous, but this one is in the Champions League, it's even more ridiculous.
Somebody on the radio yesterday texted me to say, why don't they have a different penalty spot, like a bit further back for these stupid handballs? And I actually quite like that idea. Just make it more difficult. Have it on the edge of the box or something. Because then you're going, okay, fair enough, it's a free shot. But it's not. That's adding something. I know as soon as you suggest anything that changes the game, I was, you can't do that. But honestly, one day there'll be an uprising. One day there will. But until then, clearly, I don't know. People aren't listening to me. I can't be the one to lead it.
I'm in favor of the indirect free kick solution. Because I get that, with the first one of these in particular, it feels unfair of the defender, but it is also a cross that's coming in, that's going into a dangerous area, and he does stop it with his hand. And I can kind of accept how there needs to be some kind of consequence for that. But I also just think essentially giving the other team a goal is not a rational consequence to that. That doesn't make sense. So can we have some kind of...
I don't think there should be. I just think sometimes it hits your hand.
But can we not just... I just want more indirect free kicks in the box because they're really funny. I think that's a valid argument here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Or direct, doesn't matter. Make it direct, but like have all the players in the way. That's fine. That is also entertaining.
It's probably worth noting also that on the back of this defeat, which to be fair was entirely deserved, Ajax, like Benfica, are also on no points after 4 games, which is not a lot of points. They're an absolute mess.
I really don't know how Johnny Heitinga is still the coach of this team. I know they've drawn 5 of the first 11 in the league. Like they're already 8 points back in the league, and they have 0 points in the Champions League. Obviously he's young. He's a young coach. He's still figuring things out. But I'd really be very surprised if he's still there by January.
Do you think Ten Hag might go back?
Oh God, that might be an option, wouldn't it? I mean, I kind of feel like he needs to take some time out of the game and chill and meditate and do some television work or something, because the Leverkusen thing was so bad. That was such an embarrassing thing for him. But maybe going back to Ajax. Maybe.
Is TV work and meditation the same thing? I don't know.
But I think it's a way for coaches who have like, if you've done such a big boo-boo that like no one takes you seriously anymore, TV work can be like a way of like, if you turn up and you make some good points and you seem like a rational human being, that can kind of be a way to get yourself back in the frame.
Mark, Inter won again. They beat Qarabag 2-1. Not a classic, but sort of Inter again, doing the business without anyone suggesting, they'll be good, but they are one of 3 teams with a 100% record.
Yeah, whenever I watch them, they're not very good, but they are getting wins at the moment. Yeah, they're doing probably better than I expected domestically as well. I was anticipating quite a big drop off this season. I'm not sure that they are playing to the same standards, but they keep winning in the Champions League. Lautaro put them in front, but Qarabag equalised relatively early in the second half. Arad got the goal. I mean, it was a night of good headers, because it was a really nice header from him, and also Schick's header would ordinarily, have maybe been spoken about more, but because of Dan Burns' heroics, it doesn't. But then it was Carlos Augusto that got into the win. It was a really strong finish from the edge of the box.
Yeah, nice goal.
A game that Inter should win. They did win, deserved to win, but wasn't massively pretty.
Atalanta won 1-0 in Marseille, Barry, and actually good. It's almost the Wilson scenario at the end of this game, wasn't there?
So Atalanta's Ederson handled the ball in his own box. Actually, this is one that came off his foot first and then hit his hand. The ref didn't seem quite sure what to do, while all the Marseille players appealed for a penalty and more or less stopped playing. Atalanta broke upfield, and Lazar Sarnardzic cut inside from the right, pinged an absolute beauty into the top corner from distance, and he celebrated scoring. Marseille's players and coaching staff went berserk because they thought they should have had a penalty, and the ref finally decided, I think with the assistance of VAR, to let the goal stand, and Marseille were diddled out of what possibly might have been a penalty. I don't know anymore. But this game was also interesting because Ademola Lookman, who seems to have a quite fractious relationship with Atlanta and I think wanted to leave during the summer, when he was subbed off, he said something to our old friend Ivan Juric, former Southampton manager, and Juric sort of did a double take and grabbed him by the biceps and sort of quite aggressively, and then Lookman was ushered away by some of Juric's assistants, and so there seems to be some sort of bad blood there, or beef between the two of them, but yeah, an interesting game.
Do you think Lookman said, "Did you manage Southampton last year?"
Roberto De Zerbi did find a freeze frame of the handball incident on an iPad and tried to show it to the referee, which I think listeners might know that sort of disrespect towards referees, and that is a big hobby horse of mine. It's a big problem. But actually, I find yeah, finding the evidence on the iPad of showing it is just on the right side of comedy for me to actually be, yeah, that's fine. He did immediately get a yellow card, so good value all around. Can I just say, I have a feeling that the original Wilson scenario was even more intricate, and I think it's a loophole that has now been closed, because there was one season, I believe it was only one season, where the rules said any handball at all, intentional, natural, whatever, if it's the guy who scores the goal or the guy who assists it, it has to be blown up. Now, they've changed that now. Now I think it's only the goal scorer. But for one season, it was for the assist as well, if you handle the ball before giving the assist. And that meant you might plausibly have a scenario where if a defender, for instance, handles the ball completely accidentally, not punishable handball in his own box, then boots it long and puts someone through. Now,
or gives it to Mickey van der Ven.
Well, yes. Also that, yeah. That player would then be in a position where if he scores, it is a punishable handball and a penalty down the other end. But if he misses, it's fine. that was an actual mechanic in the rules for about one season before I think someone realized, actually, that's really stupid and we need to close that hole. But that was for about one season. That was a real thing.
Pavos beat Villarreal, the other one 1-0. First ever win in the Champions League, Mark, for them.
Yeah, and I mean, a great one as well, a surprise one. This is a team that obviously Champions League debutants. They have got money, but in relative terms, they haven't got as much as some of the teams that they're competing against. And to beat us, I think Villarreal third in La Liga at the moment, certainly having a very strong domestic campaign. It's an amazing result really for Pafos, who twice already in this competition have been down to 10 men and have managed to kind of pick up points, and now a win as well. So yeah, a team that I assumed would finish in kind of the bottom places, maybe sort of last or one from last, but are making a good fist of it at the moment. Terrible result for Villarreal, and not a great night for the La Liga, or week really for the La Liga representatives.
All right, that'll do for part 2. Part 3, we'll do a Premier League preview. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. We want a bit of time to talk about the Peace Prize, so let's rattle through the Premier League games. Man City Liverpool stands out. Mark, how do you see it?
How do I see it? I don't know. I might go for the Barry answer there. I'm not sure. I think it is really, really tough. Liverpool against Real Madrid, probably best and most complete performance of the season. Had that midfield back working again. Defended well, didn't give up many opportunities, but I still don't know if I trust them in this game as much as I would have done sort of this time last year. And Erling Haaland, you've almost got like one goal up, haven't you, when he's sort of playing at the moment? You just think, well, he'll score. And like one player that I haven't given much credit to for Man City, I think is playing quite well at the moment, is Nico Gonzalez, who I think it's fair to say had a tough time when he arrived first in the Premier League, and he's not as good as Rodri, and it looked like that when he first came in. But I actually feel like this season, when he's been in, he's played to a much sort of better level, and the quality now with the City have got in midfield with Reinders and Foden and Nico Gonzalez, I think that can stand up maybe to what Liverpool have got as well. So I'd probably edge towards City, just purely because of the Haaland factor, I would say.
I also just think a big part of playing Gonzalez there is that you're not playing Gianni Reinders there, which I think we all agree should not be happening, because then you're kind of nullifying his strengths and also asking him to do stuff he's not very good at.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see. I presume Liverpool will play a very similar side to the side that did so well against Real Madrid. Leaders Arsenal, Barry, go to the Stadium of Light. The inevitable Granit Xhaka goal. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have a sneaky feeling that Sunderland might do something, but maybe that's just sort of blind hope rather than anything else.
A lot of people seem to have that sneaky feeling. Look, if they want to beat Arsenal, they have to score against them. That's not too many people doing that. They also have to not concede, which is also very difficult against that Arsenal side. And if they do concede, then they have to score 2 to win. Could they sneak a draw or a jammy 1-0 win? Maybe. But usually, if I expect Sunderland to do something positive, they invariably don't. I think people are putting a lot of hope in Sunderland, and it might be misguided. Arsenal should beat them, but who knows?
Yeah, actually, I'm just trying to work out if this is the first trip that Arsenal have made to, one of those sort of cauldrons. And it's a late kickoff, isn't it? That kind of atmosphere. And maybe I'm doing some other team a grave disservice of where they've already been.
I mean, been to Newcastle, I've been to Liverpool.
Okay, I'll take it back.
Do you want me to list the various clubs that you've dissed here now? They've played away games for Arsenal this season. They've played away to United, away to Liverpool, away to Athletic Club, away to Port Vale, away to Newcastle, away to Fulham, away to Burnley, and away to Slavia Prague. So all of those teams, no cauldrons, according to Max Rushden.
They came out of the Fulham cauldron on stage.
Didn't they? Spurs Man United, quite a strong Spurs contingent on the pod today. That Copenhagen result, even if it was just Copenhagen, felt really needed after the Chelsea game.
Yeah, the discontent in the stands after the Chelsea game, not, I would say, at the result, but at the performance and the way that they tried to go about that game. Much more enjoyable against Copenhagen. Copenhagen and not Chelsea. I mean, let's just hope this game is every bit the classic of the Europa League final was, where probably the worst game of football you could ever wish to see. I'm not. It's really hard to just work out sort of. I would say even more where Manchester United are at the moment, because I know that it feels like they're progressing, but away from home, I still would worry about just the amount of chances that they give up. Even against Forest, there's a couple of goals, and it wasn't that long ago they were getting hammered by Brentford. So this would be an opportunity, I think, for Tottenham to show that they have got a creative side to them and are able to open up Premier League teams, but they haven't done it too often this season. So I'm trying to stay patient with Thomas Frank. It's only been 10 Premier League games.
Yeah, it's not been long.
It just feels like every Premier League game is such an event, and so much is spoken about every one, every single performance, that I think we do just sort of lose just the reality of kind of the fact that he's only been there a couple of months and needs to be given time. But I agree that had the Copenhagen game not gone the way that it did, I think he would have been under big pressure.
The lads at Tottenham days are well and truly behind Manchester United now, because I think in their last 7 meetings with Spurs, they've lost 5, drawn 2, which is not to say they won't rouse themselves to win this one, but I wouldn't be putting a huge amount of faith in this Manchester United revival just yet.
But I understand from Thomas Frank's perspective. I don't know for a fact that this is what's happened, but listen, he's taken over a team that was one of the worst defenses in the league last season. Or they were actually the worst non-relegated defense in the league last season. They were so bad defensively, it was ridiculous. And I think it's understandable then to just start, we need to sort that out. Like, we need to build some kind of more solid fundament at the back there. We need to stop losing the ball in dumb areas. We need to pass it a little safer. All of that is fine. But we're in November, I'm kind of hoping that they add something, because currently they're kind of playing with the Palhinha Bentancur thing in midfield. None of them really pass the ball forwards. So that leads you to a situation where you're kind of knocking it long a lot of the time, and with no Solanke up there to kind of compete for those balls, a lot of them don't really go to anyone. Or you're playing it wide early to Kudus and Odeberg. Kudus in particular is such a great individualist. Some of the things I said about Doku earlier apply to Kudus as well. But there's a lot of hopeful long balls to no one in particular, and then balls out to Kudus. Maybe he can do something, but there's not poor Xavi Simons has been bad. He hasn't come to grips with the Premier League yet, but he is also kind of drifting around in that area, just not getting the ball in any sort of. It was listeners don't know this, but we're doing video now, and I've recently gotten rid of a lot of my hair because my sort of forelock
of the Sivertsen Island.
Yeah, the forelock had become not so much a part of my hair as just like a soul patch of the forehead. It was just this sort of thing that was there on its own, not connected to anything. That's been Xavi Simons in quite a lot of games for Tottenham this season, and it's a little bit his fault, but it's not entirely his fault that none of the central midfielders pass the ball forwards ever. So this kind of stuff, I feel like Spurs, they do need to improve. And I don't think the alarm bells are ringing quite yet, but I have noticed that there are some bells on that wall over there. And another month of the team just not being able to pass the ball, and I think we'll see the alarm bells jiggle, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think Manchester United could get something out of this game. Elsewhere, Chelsea, Wolves, Palace, Brighton. Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford, Newcastle, Forest, Leeds, Fulham, Everton and West Ham, Burnley. Any of those games?
Well, it's just a really good list of fixtures ahead of the international break. You know, Everton, Fulham, that's a big game between two teams who aren't setting the world on fire. Same West Ham, Burnley. Chelsea, Wolves. Who's in charge of Wolves this week? I don't even know.
Could be anyone really at this
Probably Steve Bull. It's got to be Steve Bull, isn't it?
And then obviously Palace, Brighton. That's those two sets of fans absolutely hate each other. Villa, Bournemouth's an interesting one near the top of the table. Newcastle are rather enigmatic. They're doing very well in the Champions League. Can't string a few results together in the Premier League, and they travel to London again to play Brentford, who are up and down, so that could go either way. And Forest Leeds is another interesting one down near the bottom. So it's a real, good work by the fixture generator this week. And before we go into another interlull,
Villa Bournemouth for me is the one I'm looking forward to out of the sort of the rest here, because at the risk of enraging the Villa faithful, I don't really buy the Aston Villa revival. I know they had this run of like 5 straight wins before they lost and 4 straight wins in the league and all this sort of stuff. But I think their underlying numbers are kind of a little stinky. Like for the Football Weekly bingo card, like I've almost made an entire episode without mentioning XG, but here we go. Like only Burnley has created a lower XG number going forward so far this season. That seems bad. That's not. I don't like that. Now they've won a couple of games now, but I don't think they've looked very good. And they've got Bournemouth coming, who I think are a more impressive outfit in a number of ways. And the big test for Villa to see if to put some substance behind the Villa revival.
Terry says, I'd like to think that the Guardian Football Weekly community could get behind the campaign for Barry Glendenning to be the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize winner, to give it the gravitas it so richly deserves. Yes, if we don't win the FSA this year, we are coming for the FIFA Peace Prize. We have been nominated for Podcast of the Year at the Football Supporters Association. We didn't win it last year after many years of winning it, and the blame lies solely with you, the listeners.
Yes.
So come on, sort it out. It's not a given. It's not a done deal. Your vote actually matters. We all got complacent, and this time, to lose 2 in a row, Barry, would be shameful.
It would be shameful. We lost it last year due to a combination of our own listeners' apathy and reluctance to just take 30 seconds out of their day to go and vote for us, and the Football Ramble galvanizing their listenership to vote early and often and repeatedly. So, you can't let us down again. I got so complacent, I even had my speech ready when I went to the awards last year. And then it was really late in the evening. I think it was the last award they gave out, and I was actually hoping we wouldn't win because I was too drunk to give the speech.
I mean, it hasn't stopped you in the past, I would say, Barry. Lots of Football Weekly family are nominated. Lucy Ward, Seb Hutchinson, Guardian Women's Football Weekly, Sophie Downey, not the top 20, so vote for all of them and do vote for us. And clearly, if we go on a sort of shameless, social media campaign to win, that's not embarrassing. If another podcast does it, then it doesn't count.
It's pitiful. It's needy.
Yeah. Now, on the Peace Prize, more importantly, FIFA President Gianni Infantino announced at something called the American Business Forum, which I've looked into. It doesn't seem like an event I'd necessarily want to be at. He's creating the FIFA Peace Prize to be awarded each year to, quote, individuals who help unite people in peace through unwavering commitment and special actions. The inaugural award will be presented on the 5th of December during the World Cup draw at the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump is expected to attend. Just
make of that what you will.
If you're thinking about people who are in the market for a Peace Prize at the moment, a statement released ahead of his joint appearance with Trump at the American Business Forum in Miami said, this is Gianni, in an increasingly unsettled and divided world, it's fundamental to recognize the outstanding contribution of those who work hard to end conflicts and bring people together in a spirit of peace. He also said, Gianni, as far as I understand, President Trump was elected in the United States of America and was quite clearly elected. When you're in such a great democracy as the United States, you should first of all respect the results of the election. which is interesting for a man who has stood unopposed to become president of FIFA in the last 2 votes, recommending somebody who supported an insurrection against a vote previously. Double thumbs up from Lars. I don't know, Barry, what there is to say about this Peace Prize.
I think when Gianni Infantino succeeded Sepp Blatter as leader of FIFA, I thought, he's just that ball guy who used to conduct the Champions League draw. He can't possibly be worse than Sepp Blatter. And that I've got some things badly wrong on this podcast in the past, but that's right up there. That really is. He's a shameless, toadying sycophant, and look, I don't know how he can sleep at night, but probably very well in a 7-star hotel room with goose down pillows and 10 million thread cotton sheets. So good luck to him.
Just an embarrassing man who brings shame upon the sport himself and the world regularly every time he opens his mouth and says or does anything. It is what it is.
That's no way to speak about Barry.
But it's, I've written a column about this, just thinking not necessarily, it's obviously this world of bullshit where, we say we want a Peace Prize, we'll give it to you, and that's fine. And maybe Donald Trump won't win it.
I bet you 100 quid he will. Right here.
But it is odd that, when you think about what football is, and it is just people running around kicking a ball, that it's got to a stage where, it is giving away peace prizes, and Infantino's at the Gaza peace talks, and I don't know how you reconcile that with just.
But isn't it written into FIFA's statute book that they should not be involved in this kind of stuff? Like, that's a cornerstone of their very existence.
I think the FIFA statutes are entirely optional at this point. They're more like guidelines.
We finish with this from Josh App, who says, great podcast and all that, just a minor nitpick. The bench at Scarborough Station is actually only the longest railway bench in the world. The longest bench in the world is located in Rendsburg in northern Germany on the banks of the Kiel Canal, and at 575.75 metres is more than 4 times as long. Thank you very much for that correction. And, if anyone has any advances on long benches, we'll take them. But that'll do for today. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Lars.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove. Our executive producer is Danielle Stevens. We'll be back on Monday.
This is The Guardian.